This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. Today is edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on today for our program. We were full swing at the State Fair in Springfield and Des Moines at the Iowa State Fair. The butter cow is full of energy at the State Fair in Springfield. But the weather will be hot for this week in central Illinois. However, there is lemonade or cold soda for this week in Springfield. However, we are going to take a listen to Jennifer Tyree from the Illinois Pork Producers Association at the State Fair in Springfield with Todd Gleason. He is a farm broadcaster from the University of Illinois Extension in Urbana-Champaign. Otherwise, we were talking about that we'll be rebuilding the cattle on the cattle. And then we were talking about the commodities markets with Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net. This been Back Roads of Illinois.
State Fair and the Commodities Pavilion, the history here, what it means to places like the pork producers, the Illinois Beef Association, those that are involved, Illinois wine.
Yeah, I'd say one word, Todd: tradition. I think it becomes a tradition for our fairgoers to come and see us every year. I have had the privilege to be with the pork producers for 10 years, and I love talking with fairgoers. We've got 80-year-old couples that come in and stop at the pork patio. It just becomes such a thing that families come back every year, and that makes me proud to be able to work with them.
This morning, as you opened up at 10:30 a.m., one of the first people in line was the new chancellor of the University of Illinois, Charles Isbell. He got your pork chop on a stick, and I have to admit, he'll be back. If not this year, next year, and the year after, and he'll be in your line again.
I love to hear that. I had an opportunity to meet your new chancellor over on the director's line this morning at Ag Day, and he is such a great advocate of pork. He told me one of his favorite foods is bacon, and by him coming over and being one of the first people on our line today, that he supports. So I look forward to working with him, and he can come back anytime he wants. We will always have a pork for him to enjoy.
Who works the commodity pavilion?
The Commodities Pavilion is made up of about 300 volunteers that we utilize throughout the 10-day fair. Our biggest volunteers are our pork producers. It is a very grassroots organization, and our pork producers are the ones working the cashier booth, helping ravers. They're our cooks from Peoria, Illinois. It's all Illinois product that we're serving, and so we are definitely a grassroots volunteer organization during the fair.
What would you say to those who are coming to the fair, who've never been here, and come to the pavilion, which, by the way, is across from the grandstand?
Yeah, so if you've never been here, we really hope you come give us a try. We're right across from the grandstand. We have had so many people come in and compliment us on our product. We're proud to be able to serve it, and it's a really cost effective. A lot of times you can come to the fair and just drop so much money. We are so proud to be able to offer budget friendly for our families. So come on down and give us a try and support your Illinois pig farmers.
These are 1-inch pork chops. These are not thin little pork chops.
Yeah, it's definitely a very substantive piece of meat. You're going to enjoy the protein. You're going to have a great experience, and you're going to support our hog farmers along the way.
So the chancellor did have a question. He wants to know what the secret seasoning is because it was so good. Can you tell us?
Yeah, so he had a chop on a stick, which we utilize Riley's all seasoning. Riley's is actually headquartered in Pittsfield, Illinois, and we've worked with Riley's for years, and we are so proud to be able to continue to serve our chop on a stick with that seasoning. It's just a fan favorite.
Jennifer Tyree is an executive director from the Illinois Pork Producers Association at the State Fair in Springfield with the farm broadcaster from the University of Illinois Extension, Todd Gleason. She was talking about the Illinois Pork Producers Association with the pork producers for this year. Todd Gleason spoke with the executive director of Illinois Pork Producers Association at the Commodities Pavilion in the State Fair about delicious food and farm-raised food that you can enjoy. And Jennifer Tyree, she talked about the chefs that they came up from Peoria. The state fair runs through Sunday on August 20th in Springfield. Thanks to Todd Gleason by the audio with the executive director of Illinois Pork Producers, Jennifer Tyree, at the state fair in Springfield. I'm talking about the World Supply and Demand Report from the Department of Agriculture on Friday. The yield trends in the report is coming out to be bear or bullish. However, the markets are closed nearby lowest priced in the corn markets. We were talking about that with Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net. Tyler, how are you and what is your thoughts on Friday with the report?
Well, actually, the report is tomorrow, Tuesday, the 12th. So that'll be tomorrow. I guess our thoughts are we had to send in our estimates for our ag market team, and I can kind of go through what we kind of see coming down the pipe. The big one that I think is going to be kind of the headline number everyone's looking at is yield on corn. USDA has been using a 181 yield as kind of a shorter term trend line. Our estimate right now is about 184.8. Now, I'll be honest, Ag Market doesn't do a formal survey. I don't put a lot of stock in surveys, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face. I can talk to farmers all over the country within 3 weeks of harvest, and most of the time they're going to miss their yield by 15 to 20 bushels. So if individual farmers miss their yield by 15 to 20 bushels, I'm not certain how we're going to have a handle on what the average yield is for the entire corn crop across the Midwest. So I don't put just a ton of weight into it. I think the more important thing is kind of look at the trend, look at the weather, kind of get a feel for what maybe it looks like. And I'll just say this: last year we had a record yield of 179 and some change. That's what we ended up with getting on the January report on corn. And you had some tough growing conditions. If you looked at the drought map, we had some struggles around the country, but we had just-in-time rain everywhere. This year, we've had very little drought concerns. We've had a lot of rain. I know there are some issues that are popping up with some disease pressures and that type of stuff. I don't think that's enough to materially destroy yield. So we're at 184.8. We did not adjust soybean yield any. We think it'll still come in at 52.5. So those are really the two probably closest watch numbers that we're going to get tomorrow. And that's where our opinion is. Either way, that leads to an increase in ending stocks for new crop corn, just shy of about 2 billion bushels. And then we didn't do a lot of demand changes on soybeans as of right now, so we don't think that ending crop really changes much on beans. We had a 350 ending stocks number in the previous report. We're still sitting at that 350 number for the report tomorrow.
Excuse me. The report is coming out for tomorrow morning at 11.
Yes, sir.
My apologies for the confusion.
Oh, that's no problem.
The corn is looking good for this year than previously years.
Yes, that's our opinion. The corn crop does look very good. I had the opportunity to drive through, kind of skirted the southwest corner of the Corn Belt, and I can assure you, I've never seen corn look that good in parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas and Missouri. So big corn. I've got some customers. I'm originally from Central Iowa. I got a handful of customers back in my hometown. They're usually pretty bullish, think prices need to go higher, and they are not there. They're looking at a big crop in their backyard, and they're not trying to talk it down. So the corn looks good. I think yield is going to be there. We're going to have a lot of production. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with it all.
Of course, Tyler. Let's discuss about these grains prices are dropping significantly lower than previously years. The world supply is tight enough. How concerned are you looking for the corn?
Well, I mean, you are correct. Compared to the last few years, we've got significantly lower prices. We had lower prices in 24 versus 25. So we did see some lower prices than what we're staring at right now last year. So kind of the same thing. I think the big issue this year is, last year, costs did not really decrease any. In fact, in a lot of cases, costs of production in 25 were higher than what they were in 24. That train hasn't slowed down, and yet prices have not really picked up. So it's been a double whammy for the producer. It's been tough to swallow, and it's starting to kind of hit home, it feels like. On the world side, there's talk about lowering ending stocks. If you looked at the world corn ending stocks and the previous USDA report is like 272 million. It's going to be a lot of people that point to that dwindling ending stocks on corn and wheat, especially from world exporters getting smaller. I know I'll look at that. I'll point that out, but I do think we do have to take a lesson on corn from wheat. And that's as the world market grows and the world is able to produce more corn, and specifically I'm talking about South America right here. Their corn crop was big, their safrinha crop was huge. Um, the result of that becomes more of kind of a just-in-time type of product like we see in manufacturing than the old school method of we produce a whole bunch, we put it in storage facilities around the world, and then we ship it where it's needed. We're producing corn in more places around the world. Everyone's getting better at it, and therefore you've just got more pockets of grain. Now, demand has also increased, so that's a good thing. And why that's important to understand is as long as the growing seasons are good around the world, I think you're going to struggle to find a reason for prices to go significantly higher. What we're going to have to see is a supply concern or supply shock because corn has gotten cheaper, demand has increased. We're using more corn today than we ever have in history, and so now if you run into an issue where we do run into some type of supply issue, a drought in South America would be perfect for us because that means we have good crop, they have a poor crop, prices go higher. But I rarely ever recommend a farmer to base his marketing plan on hope that it doesn't rain somewhere else. So
How concerned about inputs for next season with the volatility in the corn markets? Maybe we could change to the beans for next year by demand for ethanol production, Tyler. What is your
yeah,
thoughts on that?
we're concerned about corn input prices. Corn input prices are continuing to rise. The corn fertilizer ratio is just absurd. Our estimate right now is if things don't change, we're going to see corn acres down considerably for the 2026 crop year. I mean, I know that's a long ways away. We haven't even pulled the 25 out of the field yet, and now we're starting to talk about acres on 2026. We do think that's going to drop, and we'll see fewer acres just because it's going to be tough to throw that kind of money at it like we've seen. So I'm in that camp that you're gonna see a reduction in corn acres. I don't know that you see them swallowed up by soybeans. I think a lot of that increase in corn acres this year came from fringe areas. You take North Dakota, we had 300,000 additional corn acres this year versus last year. I think some of those acres will find a different home back to some type of small grain or specialty crop. You get into the South, you'll see acres go into cotton or something else where the maybe the prices aren't much better. I think producers will look for a way to lower input costs and put a little less risk on the table. They might not make as much if corn prices go higher, but it feels like farmers are looking at ways to reduce the risk that they've got spread out or their dollars that are sitting out there.
Sure. Harlan Suderman from Stone X. He marks the yield with 181 between 184. What is your position on cutting some yield by September due to the weather?
Well, I think StoneX was out. They were like a 187 yield somewhere in there, I think is what their official survey results were. We don't, like I said, we're not that high. We're 184.8, somewhere, which is still, is pretty high. I'm not gonna cast shade at anyone for doing their job and telling you what the data they're using is. It could be. August proved last year that August weather was important, and August weather is yet to be determined. Although I will say we've been seeing some good rains across the Corn Belt. I don't think you're going to see the dryness issue that you did last year in August. I know there's some creeping into some areas, but it's not doesn't seem to be quite as widespread yet. But again, I mean, we're sitting here on August 11th, got a lot of days left to figure out what's going to happen.
Do you have any final thoughts about database of the world supply and demand?
I think world supply, you're very likely to see world supply grow on everything, maybe just slightly, but I do think world numbers creep up this year across the globe, and we're looking at more ending stocks than what we had, what we were looking at in the previous month, just because seeing good weather conditions throughout the globe in a lot of cases. So look for that to creep higher, which is not necessarily beneficial for prices, but there's a lot of stuff weighing on prices. As you can see, beans were up 24 cents today on news that Trump is trying to talk China into coming into the market and buying beans. He's pressing for it. We'll see what happens. Today gave us an opportunity to put some option protection on if you haven't done enough, and so we had some producers taking advantage of a 24-cent move higher today.
How about the technical aspects on soybean futures?
Well, the one good thing I would say on the technical side was we had kind of a year-long uptrend. If you draw a line from the low set last December, snap it to the low set in April, that support line came in around the 980 level last week. We went and flirted with it. In fact, we got down as low as 981 and a quarter. I believe that was last Wednesday. Thursday, we had a low of 983. Friday, we had a low of 986. Today, actually, we had a low of 984. So we kind of kept tickling that support line. It held. We got some positive news. We're up 24 cents. So from that perspective, like that's why we kind of like buying puts here. We're worried if we flirt down with that 980, 990 level again and it doesn't hold, we think that opens up the bottom to a move lower. On the flip side, you've got a shorter term downtrend that started with the highs we posted in June. June 20th, we had a high in November beans at 1074 and a quarter. You snap that to a few other highs, and that resistance comes in at about 1014, 1015 level. Our high today on November beans was 1015. We struggled to get over that. That's capped us. This would be the third time we've reached that level and haven't been able to eclipse it. So that's another reason we thought put protection would be valuable here. If we do get through it and we go higher, you got a cluster of moving averages right around that 1025 mark. If we clear those, now you're probably talking a move back up into that 1060. But I think we're going to need some outside help. And that's largely going to come from some export business and China coming to the market right now.
Thanks, Tyler. You have a great day.
You too. Always good to visit with you, Caesar.
We've been having a conversation with Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net. This been Back Roads of Illinois IMC.